Hey guys, and welcome to another video. In today's video, we're going to be reading nothing but nonfiction books. I have wanted to read some nonfiction. I keep picking them up, like from the store, I mean, not literally. I keep picking them up from the store and I'm like, oh, this sounds so good. Or I've been seeing a lot of, for whatever reason, my algorithm on Instagram is sending me a bunch of recommendations for nonfiction books. And so because of that, I was like, you know what? I need to read some nonfiction books. So because of that, I have decided we're going to read nothing but nonfictions for this video. I have a few selected. I have one, I believe, that is strictly audio, so I don't have a physical copy, but let's just stop yapping and jump into it. Now, you're going to see books here that I've already talked about before. Shut up, okay? Don't say anything. Keep it to yourself. It's rude. But firstly, I want to read Stiff by Mary Roach. This is a book that I got from my sister years ago. I don't even know how long ago it's been because it's been years ago. And I've never read it. And so I want to read it. It's about what they do with human cadavers in different scenarios, different things that they do with them, how they are used and why they are needed and what we can do if we wanted to be a part of that system and how all that works. So this is a very interesting book. And I'm very excited to read this one and see what it's all about. All right, the next book that I plan to read, and I don't have it, so we'll pop it up over here on the screen, is going to be Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. I've wanted to read this for so long, since the moment I heard about this movie, movie? It should be a movie. That would be great. I would love a documentary. Ever since I've heard about this book, I've wanted to read it. And I finally was able to get my hands on it from my local library, which also is what prompted this whole video, if I'm being really honest. So we are going to be reading Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. Essentially, this is how everything is connected back to tuberculosis, how everything in history and society has some sort of connection in some way back to tuberculosis. I am so excited to get into this one. I cannot wait to read all about it. It just sounds so good to me. Now, Stiff and Everything is Tuberculosis are both books that I have on audio. So the next books I want to read are going to be physical only books, and that is Burnout. I told you to be quiet. Stop talking. Yes, I've talked about this book like 75 times. Yes, I was supposed to have finished it 4 weeks ago. So what? Okay? So what? I'm going to finally work on finishing Burnout, The Secret of Unlocking the Stress Cycle. I have read more since I last talked about it, so I have made it to page 16. That's progress, and I don't want to hear about it. But I want to read this. I got this book, as you know, and if you don't know, I'm going to tell you. If you do know, keep it to yourself. I've got this book because Kennedy from Cozy K or Cozy K Games, she talked about this book in one of her videos, and she was talking about it in the relation to her. She was in law school and then she became a lawyer, and she was trying to balance that and doing her YouTube stuff, and she just felt like she had to keep doing the most and keep and go and go and go. And so eventually she decided, I'm just going to let it go. I need to do something about this. I can't do all of the things all of the time. And so she talked about this book and how it helped her with burnout and her stress management and how she approaches certain things. And I would love that. I need that for me, and I would love to figure that out. So I'm going to be reading this. If it gives me any valuable information, I will share it with you. But also, if it is just that necessary, I will let you know as well if this is something I definitely recommend as an all read. And I'll do the same for all the other books as well, but specifically for burnout, I know that that's a thing that a lot of us struggle with, especially in society right now. So I'll share my opinions, of course. And then the next book that I don't have an audiobook for is I Want to Die, But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki. Again, you've heard about this book. So over the last few weeks, I've been reading this instead of reading Burnout, and that's part of the problem. But it's okay. It's reading, and reading has no timeline. Leave me alone. But I will share my thoughts and opinions on this one as well from a psychology perspective, but also as a person suffering with depression and anxiety. I'll let you know. And then our final book I do have an audiobook for from my library, and I have the physical, which is The Radium Girls. I just can't stop thinking about this book. Okay. When I bought it, I was like, yes. I heard about it and I was like, this sounds so good. I really want to read this. And when I bought it, I was just like, I want to read this. 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 And I just keep thinking about wanting to read it. So I'm going to read it. I got the Libby audiobook. So we're going to be reading this one. I'm very excited for it. She is chunky. I think she is the chunkiest book of all the books that I have, but I'm dedicated to reading this. So we'll read this one and I'll tell you what I learned from it. But this is ultimately following the history of some women who were a part of a radium dial clock factory and didn't realize what radium was and what it does to your body. And they were ingesting it. And it's just following that history. So I'm excited to share with y'all all the amazing, interesting historical details of things that I learn, all the cool things that I learn, all the things that I think are stupid, all of it. I'm excited to share all of it with you. So if you're into that and you like nonfiction too, or you're interested in figuring out if these nonfiction books are for you, please stick around, follow me along, and at the end, I'll let you know. Did I enjoy them, and do I think everyone should read them? I'll see y'all in a clip. Hello, friends. Welcome back. So, Intro Angel is a little bit smidgen of a liar. You're going to learn, okay? You'll figure it out. But in my intro, obviously, I said I'm so excited to read this. I've already read it. I'm finished. I finished this a day ago. But I want to go ahead and give y'all my update. I don't want to wait and make it fit in weird and like we don't need to do YouTube art here. I read the book already. Let's just talk about it. So, like I said, I'd gotten this book from my sister years ago. I want to say I probably got this from her like 7-8 years ago, potentially, if not more than that. I've had it for a while. Let's see, when did this come out? Yeah, I believe this is from 2021. So I've had this for a little while. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It wasn't as long as I thought, but I felt like I've had this for a while. Anyway, I got this book from my sister and I never read it. I'm very much into psychology and understanding things like that, but I also like weird girl stuff. And to me, this is a weird girl stuff. So yeah, I read it. Essentially, we're following the author, Mary, as she goes through and meets different people who do different things with bodies. And so we start off with her going and meeting with people who do anatomy type things where they're trying to learn how to do things before they become surgeons or before they become doctors or while they're working on their doctorate, that sort of thing, using the cadavers for educational purposes. And so she starts there, which makes the most sense to me because that's also like most people's understanding of what bodies are used for after death. But then we move on to talking about body snatching and other sordid tales from the dawn of human dissection. And this is where we get into a lot of the things we already know, like Burke hair, people stealing bodies and stealing things from bodies and using bodies for different things and wanting them for certain things. There is like a spot in here where we talk about when people were beheaded using the guillotine, that there was the belief that people who were beheaded using the guillotine didn't feel it. That was the whole reason that it was invented, and that's the whole reason they did it. They did it because it was a more humane practice than hanging people. But obviously, before the guy who coined this passed away, he learned that that isn't actually true. People who were killed by guillotine were still in some way aware of what had happened to them for moments after they had been decapitated. We also learned that a lot of these people, in their moments of being decapitated, their body, like everything comes out of them, for a nice term, and they express everything from their bodies. And so it's like, knowing that all of these things are happening to these people, like, it's not more humane. Not really. She talks about a story of a executioner talking about how they have to replace the basket that the heads fall in every 3 months or so because the people would gnaw at the bottom of the basket in their final moments of death. And so we see a doctor who tries to determine if you can reanimate someone using their head. And this comes from an idea of like doing transplants. There you go. Wanting to see if they could use these heads, if they could reanimate them, essentially. And so they would like pump blood back into the head to see if they can get the heads to return to their vigor. The issue that they kept running into, obviously, was that once these people were beheaded, it was a while before their heads were able to be delivered to this person. So he does some shady stuff to be able to get the heads even earlier, but he's not able to like finish what he started, and he's not able to like prove what he wanted to prove. And so he kind of just abandons the project. But that project leads into us talking about head transplants, because if you can transplant other things, why not a head? And so people learning how to like do that and how to get heads to be transfixed to other bodies, and if you can do that and what that means and what it does and how it works, if it works, and very interesting stuff. Another section of the book that we learn about is human crash dummies, because they need to test them to see what really happens to a body in accidents and in crashes. There's also a story about using the bodies of the dead on a plane crash to determine what happened on the plane. And this was, I believe, before black boxes were really a thing, or when they were trying to determine more than just what the black box could tell you. Black box being the boxes inside of the airplanes that when a plane crashes, they can go to that and it tells them what all things were firing from a technical perspective on if something stopped working while they were flying or whatever may have happened. So we follow Mary as she goes to interview a doctor who investigates plane crashes and examines the dead bodies of those on the plane to determine what may have happened. And there's a specific crash that they're trying to emulate as well to determine what happened on a specific flight. But what I learned from that chapter that I thought was so fascinating was them talking about the cost of a life on an airplane and how they quantify the cost of a life to determine if that is going to allow them to implement certain things on planes. A perfect example that was given in the book. In 1991, the cost of a body was $2.7 million. So they evaluated that the effects on society and all the things that go into a person dying and being dead in a plane crash equates to about $2.7 million. That's how much you're worth when you hop on a Boeing jet. Okay? And what they determined with that information is that they do a cost-benefit analysis to determine if things are worth implementing on a plane. One of those things being shoulder straps on planes. They wanted to put shoulder straps on a plane. They said, okay, tell us what that looks like. Someone went and calculated the numbers to see, okay, this is how much it's going to cost for us to put shoulder straps on an airplane. And keeping in mind, a body is $2.7 million. To install the shoulder straps was $36 million. They said, not doing it. It's not worth it. It's not cost effective. They would rather spend money on us dying than to spend money to keep us from dying. Yeah, that's crazy work. That is honestly the craziest shit I've ever heard of. Like, I already knew this in a non-factual, conceptual way. Like, we already know some of this shit. Boeing does crazy shit all the time, right? We all know that. But to find out that, that's really how it works is quite crazy, that they put a value on my life to determine if my life is worth saving based on how much they have to spend to save it. So frustrating. So frustrating. Tell me you care more about money than you care about people without telling me. Anyway, that was one of the most interesting chapters for me, but that was more because of a political thing. And then we follow also cadavers being used in the army and how they use bullets and bombs and training. There was a time where apparently to test whether a vest was bulletproof or not, they wouldn't shoot into dead bodies because they believed that that's some kind of sacrilege, something or other. I don't know. It's just a thing you don't do. Like, they've determined that ethically it's not good to shoot dead bodies, which I think is crazy work. So instead of shooting dead bodies, what do? Tell me, class, what do? We shoot at live bodies. That's insane. They would put bulletproof vests on living people and then shoot them to see if the vest worked. They would put a vest on a living human being and then shoot them with guns to see if the vests worked. The things we have capabilities to do, and yet we have such weird rules around protecting living people with dead people. Like, I'm so sorry if this sounds insensitive, but if I died and you could use my body to determine how to best save someone else's life, I find that very odd that you're not doing that. I'm not alive. It just seems so weird to me. And I understand I don't have like religious things in my past or in my present even to like hold me to certain values or expectations of my body when I've died. But like, come on. We're shooting at living people? That's crazy. It's crazy. We also learn about death and dying and how they do transplants for human beings and like what they determined to be legally dead and how they fought that for a long time on whether or not you could take the organs from someone who was determined to be legally brain dead. Crazy stuff. Also learned about how the heart can pump after you take it out of a body and you put it into another body. Once the blood starts flowing into the heart, it will just start pumping again. That's so crazy. The human body is a crazy mechanism, honestly. And then obviously that transplant runs us into the head transplants and trying to reanimate heads. We talk about cannibalism in this book and eating people and what that's about. So yeah, I found this book so interesting. I found this so fascinating. If you're at all interested in these types of things, or you're interested in learning more about what we do with people after they die and they donate their bodies to science, I think this is a really, really fascinating read. And I think this also gives people more of an understanding of like what happens to you when you die if you do want to donate your body to science and research. I think that more people should do that. And this book to me is a very beautiful case for why we should and what we could do for others beyond our being and beyond our recognition of being alive. It was very fascinating. Okay, outside of that, I have also started reading Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. I'm almost 50% of the way into that book. I started it last night randomly. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good. One, I love his voice. It is very calming and soothing, and he's just very like, his voice is just one of those voices you could fall asleep to. And if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, I'm sorry. That sucks. Anyway, in this book, like I said, he is basically just showing us and telling us everything relates to tuberculosis. And one of the things I found absolutely fascinating about this book so far is him talking about tuberculosis and its relation to race and racial discrimination and racial superiority complexes and just like the supremacy of whiteness, which I would never have thought that you would, like, we're racializing tuberculosis? That's crazy. Also, romanticizing tuberculosis. Crazy work. So he talks about, one, didn't know this. I think I did on some level, but I don't remember it. That the Bronte sisters all died from tuberculosis. Which I honestly, I feel like I remember it in an inkling, but like not in a like, oh yeah, of course kind of way. But about the time when they died of tuberculosis, it was very popular for artists who died of tuberculosis to be like, oh yes, of course they were an artist. They were a tortured soul type of thing. What? There's also believed that Edgar Allan Poe died of tuberculosis, but we know for a fact his wife, cousin, sister person, I don't remember, she was his relative. Edgar Allan Poe's wife was his relative. I do believe that. Fact check me. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm almost 100% certain she was related to him in some way. But she died of tuberculosis. But they did believe, because of these things, that tuberculosis was related to genealogy. And so it was like genetically passed. And thus, if you weren't white, you couldn't get it. You had to be like part of this special breed of person to have tuberculosis. But then they also still treated these people like pariahs. I just think it's so fascinating how much, like, and they believed because all of these famous white people were dying of tuberculosis that other bodies could not get tuberculosis because they were not sophisticated enough to have tuberculosis. They called it consumption. They called it the wasting disease. And it was also a fad for skinniness. Them Victorians were doing some crazy shit to be skinny. Crazy shit. Eating tapeworms. So wild. So anyway, I'm very much enjoying Everything is Tuberculosis. We're also learning about a specific person that John Green met in the Congo who had tuberculosis, and talking with his mother and with him and meeting these people and how they've been impacted by this tuberculosis and how they've been impacted by racial nonsense and why they don't have the coverage that they need, because we do have a way to help these people with tuberculosis and we're not utilizing it for people. More people die of tuberculosis than people died of COVID every year. And to me, that's insane. COVID overtook tuberculosis only for the first year that it was around, and death numbers. After 2021, tuberculosis went back to being the number one killer of people. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard of. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And we have ways to help these people and we're not doing it. I'm sure John's going to tell us more about it as I keep reading, but that's as far as I've gotten in that book. So those are my updates. I can update you also on Burnout and I Want to Eat Tteokbokki, but I will update you on those when I start reading them again. And for now, I'm going to get back into reading Everything is Tuberculosis, and I'll see y'all in a while with another update. Sorry, I forgot to turn my microphone on. Anyway, I'm back for an update. It is the afternoon. Y'all, I'm back, okay? I am back. I've read 2 books in like 2.5 days. That's pretty damn good, if you ask me. So I just finished reading Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. Why did I cry so much? Excuse me? Like, be serious. Why did I cry so much, you guys? I cried so much. Get this light out of the way. I cried so many times. I cried like 3 times. And I was like, why am I crying? Oh, I don't know what's going on. There's probably something internally happening there, but either way, there was like, it's the inhumane and indecent behavior of people in power not wanting or being willing to help others, and the restrictions that they put in order to not help others because they don't want to help others, and hearing about how those things went. There was a specific story about one person, and she was friends with someone who had TB. They were in a sanatorium together and they were friends, and this one character would always get in trouble. She's not a character. These are real people. This one person would always get in trouble because she was doing too much. When consumption, tuberculosis, wasting disease, whatever they called it, in whatever region you were in, when they had this and they were in the sanatoriums, they were meant to be invalids. You're not allowed to do anything on your own. You're not allowed to move. You shouldn't be laughing. You should avoid any heightened emotions because it's all draining the energy from your body. And so they just didn't want them doing anything. And this one person, she was very much just like, didn't care. She was like, I'm a kid, because she was a child. I think that he said I don't remember if she was 5 or if she was 8. I can't fully remember. But she was a kid, like a child. And they're like, stop laughing and enjoying life. You have to sit still. You can't cry. You can't scream. You can't do anything. Sit down. Be quiet. And she would get in trouble for not listening because she's a child and she doesn't listen. That's what children do. Anyway, she had a friend, and her friend hit it off, And her friend was very like, follow the rules. She listened to everything they said because she was so excited to get back home to her family so she could be with her sister. And she was, every day she would write a letter. Or every day, every week, whatever, she would write letters to her sister. And when her dad would come visit her in the sanatorium, he would give her the letters from her sister. And we find out at the end of this like piece of the story that he's telling that unfortunately her sister wasn't writing her those letters. I'm gonna cry again. She wasn't writing her those letters because her sister had died of tuberculosis at home. And the dad was writing those letters in her sister's handwriting because the theory was that you couldn't allow people to have too much emotional response, or it could cause them to like become very, very ill or die even. And so he didn't tell her that her sister was dead, and instead just pretended to be her sister and wrote her letters every time he came to visit her. That's why the sister wasn't coming. And she never learned that because she died also from tuberculosis. And the way that John told that story of this girl and her dad and her dead sister, it wrecked me, y'all. Like, it destroyed me. I was bawling on the couch during my lunch break. Like, oh my God. And there's another one where we learn about one of the main people that we follow throughout John's story on tuberculosis is a boy named Henry, and his back and forth battle with tuberculosis, and him wanting to just be like a normal person and a regular kid and just live life, and like talking about how he was shunned, but not just him, like other people generally seen as like leper type people, that like people were like, don't talk to me, don't touch me, don't look at me. People throwing medication at people because they didn't want to touch them. There was one person who coughed. They cough while they're trying to get their medications or something. And one of the nurses is like, stop coughing. And then turns to a colleague and goes, ugh, they're already trying to kill me. They're all coughing everywhere. And like, just kind of like talks about people, human beings who are in your face, by the way, like they're like a thing on a shelf. Insane treatment of human beings. And the way that they compartmentalize these people not being people to justify the things that were happening. And like, it was a very, very beautifully written and very explorative book. It didn't tell the story I was expecting. I don't know why, and I should have known better. I was expecting to hear a like history of tuberculosis in a like, did you know that the man who invented belts had tuberculosis, and this is why he invented belts, while he had tuberculosis? Like, I was expecting more things like that, and what I got was the reality of the world. And it just hit me harder than I anticipated, because what I got was there are people dying from TB all over the world because people in power and people who want to make a profit won't give the drugs to the countries that need them the most because they want to make money. And one of those big people is Johnson & Johnson. Corporations suck ass. They really, truly do. Like, this goes back to the same thing from the other book about Boeing and like putting a quantifiable number on my life. And the fact that like my life means nothing because I'm one person in a sea of millions of people who are dying from a disease. But like, that's the thing that's crazy to me, is that you have the cure. Tuberculosis is curable, you guys. It's curable for most people. And yet and still, we aren't giving them the ability to be cured from it. Why? Why? All because we want to pretend that we have to regulate these medications because those people might become resistant to that, and then we would have a bigger problem. But I would argue that we already have a big problem because there are already people who are resistant to the medicine that you were giving them before, and they're not healing from it. Like, it feels very AIDS. It feels very AIDS all over again. Also, AIDS gets brought up in this. HIV AIDS is brought up because a lot of people start dying all of a sudden when the HIV AIDS thing comes out, and it was dying quicker and faster and more viciously than others because they had TB and didn't know it. And so when they got HIV AIDS, they had a compromised immune system, and tuberculosis went in and said, whoom, and just like took them fully out, which is crazy. And talking about like how you can have TB and live with TB and not even know that you have it, which is also insane. The shot that we get, TB shot that we get, my husband has to get one every year because he's a healthcare worker. It's basically to see if you have TB in your body. It's the easiest way to determine if you have TB in your body. They inject you with this medication, and if your body responds to it, that means you have tuberculosis. Anyway, it's just absolutely insane. It's terrifying. It's terrible. I highly recommend you reading this book if you're at all interested in like medical stuff, if you are intrigued by understanding the histories and how the histories of things are impacted by the things happening in life. Like, this is very much one of those stories that he tells of like, this is like the hems of skirts were impacted by TB. Like, it's things like that where you're just like, I never would have thought that the reason why we have this or don't have this or whatever is because of tuberculosis. It's so crazy. The reason we don't drink unpasteurized milk, raw milk, you raw milk people out there, I know you're not watching my videos, but the raw milk people, the reason we don't have raw milk is because of tuberculosis, because you can get tuberculosis through raw milk. That's enough for me to not want to ever drink raw milk. I was never going to anyway, because I have I'm a little paranoid. John talks about in his book that he has OCD. And his OCD is about microorganisms and microbes and how they are on, in, and around your body constantly. And how these microbes that the reason that you might be hungry for a certain thing isn't because you're just hungry for a thing, but because there's a microbe inside your body controlling your brain, telling you to eat this thing. Don't love that. Could have gone my entire life without that knowledge, John. But I understand why you brought it up. I just wish that you hadn't. Anyway, that was Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. I highly recommend it if you've never read it. I think it was a great read. I quite enjoyed myself. So now we're going to move on to reading our next book, which I'm going to be reading. I Want to Die, but I Want to Eat Tteokbokki. I have started this already, as I've mentioned, and I really do like this book so far. Essentially, we're following our main character, and by main character, I mean the author of this book. I don't know how to say her name. I'm going to say it's Baek. I suck. I could Google it. You know, Google is free. I could Google it. Let me see. Y'all can listen to my keyboard while I type. All right. I was right. It's Baek. Look at me being able to use context clues. I do not speak Korean, so I could have been fully wrong. But yes, her name is Baek, and we're following her as she's dealing with a depression, and a depression that I don't know that a lot of people deal with or a lot of people think about, where she is basically like, nothing brings her happiness. Nothing brings her joy. She feels sad about things. The only things that bring her joy only bring her joy for fleeting moments. And so she's trying to find out and figure out for herself how to live and enjoy life and not put all these expectations on herself and on other people, and to just be, and being okay with just being. She's talking a lot about her relationship with her family, and how her family relationship is very much just her, and her family dynamic was just very dependent. Her mom was like, made her super dependent on her, and so she had to like really work very hard to break away from her mother and her sister and not have them paying for absolutely everything for her life so that she could live on her own. But they also made her very dependent on them from an emotional standpoint, and kind of like emotionally, like, I don't know if emotional abuse or emotional assault is a better word, but like, for lack of better terminology, like that's what it feels like that she's explaining, is that her family excuse me, her family was very much just like, why don't you love me? Why don't you feel bad for me? I want this thing. And so you have to cater to my every whim kind of thing. And she did it for the most part for a long time until she didn't. And the way that that happened for her, like, I don't know, this book's very interesting. I think that the thing that I struggle with is that I'm not Korean and I was not born into a like Eastern worldview. And so I don't know how much of this I'm not understanding from a cultural perspective. This is a translated work. This was translated by Anton, who's from Sweden. And I just don't know how much of what's in this book is like a Korean cultural ideology that I'm just not understanding because I'm not Korean and I've never been to Korea and I've never lived in Korea and I don't have that same cultural understanding, right? I don't think I even know anyone who is Korean. Either way, I don't know all of that, but I do know from my studies as a psychology student that a lot of Eastern cultures, the adults rely on the children for life after a certain point. And so there's a lot of pressure put on the children to have successful lives and successful jobs and to make sure that they're living in a certain way and that they're living up to certain ideals and expectations. And I can feel that vibe from this book a lot. She's not outwardly saying any of these things, but the way that she talks about certain stuff, it does give that, like, I guess to equate it to an American ideology, right, is the American dream aspect of things where it's like the expectation of, I can speak for women, is for us to be married and have children and to live this certain lifestyle. And that's something that we're raised as girls and Americans to like strive for. Men are expected to get really good paying jobs so that they can take care of their family, which they're gonna have because they're gonna get married and they're going to have 2.5 children in a house with a white picket fence type vibe, you know? Like there is that expectation in America, and it's similar but different in Eastern cultures. And I feel like that's the pressure that she's dealing with. Except here, it's not like as heavily pressurized, in my opinion, as it is in Eastern cultures, because they do have to have like this is how life lives. Like this is what we do. And so it just feels like that is a very like, this is it, so do it type of thing. So anyway, following her story has been very eye-opening and very interesting. There was something in this book that I mentioned to my own therapist, where she's talking to her therapist, and her therapist is talking to her about her hobby. Her hobby that she decided to do was to join a movie watching club. So like a book club, but a movie watching club, which I thought is really, really cool. But the movie club is about to end, and so she's trying to figure out what she wants to do next, like what club she wants to join next. And she says, movie club will end soon, another club will be starting up, but I'm not sure if I want to join or not. And prior background to this conversation is that she could have joined a writing club or a book club, but she decided not to join a book club because her background is in literature. She went to college for literature, and she works in a literary field. And so she felt like there was going to be this expectation that she'd be the smartest person in the room. And she didn't want that expectation. So she decided to join a movie critique group. But in joining the movie critique group, she has similar expectations that she still is holding on to, that she should have some like grand prowess about why she believes what she believes from a movie that she watched. And not just being able to say, yeah, I just didn't like it and I'm not sure why. Which is valid, by the way. I think we get too fucking uppity, if I'm being really honest, about the way that people review shit. I don't think it's that deep. That's just me. I don't think it's that deep. I think that some people get real fucking uppity about how people review shit, and people saying they do or don't like something, or people saying that the way that you explain your thought process is inadequate or invalid or whatever the fuck. Y'all need to chill the fuck out and y'all need to go mind your business. If you don't like how somebody explains something and it's not hurting you or hurting someone else, mind your business. It's really that easy. You could just keep going. You could just scroll on. It's really that simple. Now, if someone is unfairly critiquing something and it's very obvious that they're trying to make it out to be something it's not, there's nuance. There's always nuance. But if generally Bob gets on the internet and says, I don't fucking like this movie because I don't like movies about war, you don't then have to go on to his comment and be like, why don't you like movies about war? War is very important. You should know all the historical findings about. Shut up. Let Bob not like movies about war and move on with your life. It's fine. Tirade over. Anyway, she tells her therapist it's ending soon, but she's not sure if she wants to join or not. Her therapist says, why don't you write down pros and cons of the club? You might find an answer there. And this is the part that got me. Listen, it's just a hobby after all. You mustn't let your hobby become stressful. But I hope if you don't do it, it isn't out of fear. And when I tell y'all all the commentary that I've been going back and forth on this channel about me stressing over my YouTube videos and I didn't read and I didn't do this and I didn't do that. It's a hobby. I don't get paid to do YouTube. And at the end of the day, the reason I'm doing this is because I just want to yap about a book. I just want to talk to y'all about the books that I read. And that's it. That's all I really want to do. If I get paid for it one day, cool. If I don't, also okay. This is my hobby though. And I mustn't let my hobby become stressful. Because hobbies are for fun and enjoyment. And I need to let that happen. I know that I've talked about this creator many, many times, and I'm going to talk about her some more because I just adore her in a weird parasocial way, probably. But Spicy Cat reads, the way that she moves through life is so inspiring to me. The way that she is just like, I'm doing it for the whimsy. I'm doing it for the fun and the joy and the excitement of doing it. I'm not doing it for you. I'm not doing it for him. I'm doing it because I want to do it. And if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. And if I want to do it tomorrow, I will. And if I want to wait a year before I do it again, I will. I just love how it seems effortless for her. And I'm sure that it's not. That's social media, right? But it seems so effortless. And I do in a way envy her effortlessness that she presents, even if that's not what's factual. But I also just really envy the joy that she has from doing the things she likes. And I want to get back to that for me. I used to be that way when I was younger. And as an adult, for whatever stupid reason, I have gotten away from that. And everything has to be so specific and particular and blah, 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 blah. And it doesn't. Let me tell you a story. I'm going on tangent today. So stick with me, please. For the love of God. A side story. I saw Regina George wearing army pants and flip-flops. So I bought army pants and flip-flops. That's what this story's about to be. Kitty bought this specific mouse. I saw it in one of her posts and I was like, oh my God, I love that mouse. Where did you get it? It's so cool. I love how colorful it is. Da 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 da. She shared the link with me. Thank you so much. And I contemplated for 2 days about getting this fucking mouse because it doesn't really match the vibe of my room. Bitch. I fucking love this mouse. I think it's so fun. It's so fun and colorful and pretty. And who gives a flying fuck if it doesn't match the green or black aesthetic of my room? 1, it's better for my wristicle. And 2, it's fun. This little fucking mouse is fun. I know I'm crazy, okay? Just leave me be. Anyway, this is for me, this is a symbol. I know that probably sounds so dumb, y'all. Please don't tell me I'm stupid in the comments. It's fine, but I'm slowly trying to break out of it, okay? I like color. I do enjoy color. I have specific colors I like more than others, green, pink, for example, but I do like colors in general. I decided to start bedazzling this book specifically because of how colorful and fun it was. I like fun things. And I should be able to have whatever fuck-ass mouse I want on my goddamn desk. Anyway, all that to say, this book's really good. And this is enough yapping. We've been going for 25 minutes. I've got to stop. But I did, in fact, love this book, or am loving this book, and I'm going to jump back into it today. Hopefully, potentially, famous last words. I'll try and read the rest of it today. Y'all all know. If you've been here for a minute, you know I ain't going to read the rest of this today. You know it. I know it. But it doesn't mean I stop hoping for the best for myself, okay? Anyway, I want to read this some more. I will say some of the topics that she talks about in here, it feels very curated. I don't know how long she was seeing this therapist for because we don't get that background in here. Oh, just kidding. Stupid. I read the back. She was receiving therapeutic treatment for dysthymia, which is persistent mild depression, for 10 years. So this is over 10 years. So you can very much tell from reading some of these back and forth conversations that this is not strictly just word for word what happened, because there are some spots where she like jumps to a different topic and it doesn't like clearly connect, but she has to distill it down in some ways. So I am enjoying it. I am keeping that in mind that there's some context we're possibly missing. She did like record all of her therapy sessions because that was something that she thought she had to do, which is talked about in this book, that she thought she had to record her therapy sessions so that she could listen back to them to hear how dumb she sounded or how educated she sounded, or if she said something that she doesn't remember, which is just a lot of pressure. And her therapist tells her that. Like, that's a lot. So anyway, very much enjoying it. I'm having a great time. I'm loving reading this, and I'm going to continue to read it. And that's about it. So outside of reading, what have I been doing? Let's talk about that. I know this has been going on for 25 minutes, but I'll make it quick. I've been playing Paralives on my laptop, loving it, having a great time, decorating my house. It's so much fun. I've also been doing my diamond art on my book, my bedazzling, whatever you want to call it. I'm still having so much fun. I like to do this during my lunch break because it's a way for me to like force myself to break away from thinking about my job during the day. So I really like this. I'm having a great time with that. Another thing that I'm enjoying, yes I do. I got this from Barnes and it's Murder Doku. I always say Sudoku wrong and Sudoku. It doesn't matter. I got Murder Doku and I'm obsessed with this. I got this and I'm already on page 98. I've done this many in a week. It's been a week and I'm having the grandest of times. I'm enjoying this so much. I need to get more puzzle games in my life because that's just, I'm having a bomb ass time with it. And I've just been doing that when I'm not reading or if I'm listening to an audiobook. I do find it a little hard to do when I'm listening to an audiobook because I do have to like read a little bit here and there. So that's not been like the best thing when I'm listening to audiobooks. The best thing to do when listening to my audiobook is this. And I'm having a great time with that. Other than that, I also got, Moonlight something? I can't remember the name of the game. Moonlight Peaks. I think that's it, right? I bought Moonlight Peaks on PC. I should have bought it on Switch. I will say that much. It seems more to be a handheld game than a PC game in my opinion. But I bought Moonlight Peaks and I'm absolutely enjoying it. I'm loving it so much. I'm having a great time. I just started it this weekend. I think it's ruined my life though because I do not feel good because I stayed up until almost 3 o'clock in the morning playing it one day. But it is such a fun game. You get to play as a vampire. It's very Stardew Valley because you have quests and a timer. Like it is Stardew Valley, but like gothic spooky. So much fun. I'm having a great time. I've played almost a week's worth of the game in a few hours the other day. So that one's fun. I'm enjoying playing that. And Paralives is the other game that I've been playing. I did recently see a game that I'm contemplating buying, which is called Librarian. And it's a librarian who organizes books in a library that they got all thrown around by like fairies or something. I don't remember. And it seems so cool and it seems so fun. So been contemplating buying that one as well. But we'll see. Other than that, I think that's really it. That's all I've been doing. Anyway, I've yapped enough. I've been yapping for 30 minutes. So I'm going to go. I need to go get my daughter from school. I might go ahead and start the audiobook. No, I won't. I was going to start the audiobook for Radium Girls, but I'm not gonna. I'm actually going to finish listening to a podcast. I started listening to one of my podcasts, Maintenance Phase. I absolutely love them. They're hilarious and funny, but also informative. And we love that. And they had a new episode come out today. So I think I'm going to finish listening to that while I go pick her up and then come back home and we'll work on reading I Want to Die, but I Want to Eat Tteokbokki. And that'll be it. So I'll see y'all in a little bit. Hello, friends. I'm back. I have just finished reading I Want to Die, but I Want to Eat Tteokbokki. I did learn that there is a follow-up to this called I Want to Die, but I Still Want to Eat Tteokbokki, where the author dives deeper into some of her sessions and her depression and things. I will say I originally picked this up because I was also struggling with my depression. Because I also wanted to die, but I wanted to eat tteokbokki. More like I wanted to eat pizza or pasta. I don't know. Either way. I actually really wanted to eat chocolate ice cream. I've been eating a lot of Rocky Road ice cream. I don't know. Anyway, that's not the point. I picked this up because I was feeling sad. And I think that's very funny in a way because there's a section at the end of this book where she has like some, I guess you would call them like micro essays or insightful thoughts post all of the psychiatric things, and she talks about different aspects of her life in these little brief chapters. And one of the like brief chapters she talks about is called Suffering and Consolation, and she's talking about how sad she is and ruminating on love and work and anything really, because the moment she realizes she should do better comes just when the person she should have do better with is no longer by her side. And it's no use to run in circles thinking about how upset you are and how hurt you are with all of these things. So on these days, I read, because there really is no torture greater than endlessly rambling on about unshakable feelings for another person. That just results in cycles of meaningless emotional consumption for myself and for whomever is listening. But books are different. I often look for books that are like medicine. that fit my situation and my thoughts, and I read them over and over again until the pages are tattered, underlining everything, and still the book will have something to give me. Books never tire of me, and in time they present a solution, quietly waiting until I'm fully healed. That's one of the nicest things about books. And I absolutely love that ending because it made me feel similarly to why I picked this up in the first place. I wasn't feeling great. I wasn't feeling good about myself or my life or situations I was dealing with. And so I picked up this book thinking maybe reading about someone else also dealing with the same stuff would help me feel better and see what she did and see how she got through it. And in a way it did, honestly. Like a lot of the things she talks about in here, I thought about myself and I took into my own therapy sessions, and I asked myself questions about, what do I think about that and how do I feel about that? And I think this is a beautiful book. I do think that there are parts where if you don't know how therapy works and you don't understand psychiatry or psychology and how that stuff really works from a insider perspective, if you will, then I think that this book can kind of come off weird for some people potentially. I also think because she is shortening her sessions over 10 years into a book, I think that that also is like very obvious in some of the writing. Like I've said before, like there's parts where she's like, also, I was thinking about this thing. Also, I'm going to be doing this tomorrow. And like she just kind of like rambles into another scenario, and we just kind of jump from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. And there's not really solutions that we're finding in these ramblings. And her psychiatrist isn't inherently solving her problems. Like there's a second book, right? So she's not like solving her issues inherently, but she is learning how to manage them. And I think that that's the thing that I don't think a lot of people understand about what therapy is and about how it works, is that it's not about fixing your problems and removing the problems from your life, but learning how to deal with them and how to cope with them and how to change your patterns if you don't like them, and how to like work around certain holding patterns that you may have. And I think she does a beautiful job of like exploring that and talking about that. I do think it was good. I think there were some parts that were like very poetic. There were some parts where I was like, girl, what? I will say the second half of this book, I was kind of like, what are we talking about? There were some things there that it kind of threw me a little bit, and it threw her apparently also, because like she even says it in some of the spots where she was like, what was I laughing about, or what are we talking about? Clearly I didn't care about this thing because I changed the subject and like stuff like that, where she annotates those kind of notes to herself in here. Anyway, so I finished this book now, and I'm not gonna lie to you, there were parts of this where it just felt like flowery descriptive writing of like, that's not exactly what I mean, but like anecdotes, like and so I just learned to love the sun and see things as beautiful and everything as a shining moment, like that sort of stuff, where I was like, bleh, where I was just kind of like, nah, I'm not feeling it. So because of that, I was going to be reading my burnout book next, but it's kind of does the same thing because I have read some of it already, and it kind of does the like giving you fake stories to go off of, and I don't really want to read that right now. So I think what I'm going to do is get started on the Radium Girls. I have this audiobook, so I can just put this in and kind of veg out for a little while, because I'm also having a hard week. I'm stressed, I'm tired, my head hurts. So anyway, I think I'm going to pick this one up. I think I'm going to read this, and then maybe in the middle of me reading this, I'll pick up Burnout if I feel like it, but we're going to go ahead and get started on the Radium Girls. So also, y'all saw me, I played some games during my lunch break today. I got to play Moonlight, whatever. I can't remember the name of the game. I do like it. It is very Stardew Valley, but Animal Crossing. It's like those two games put together, but make it gothic, honestly. So I do like it. I do enjoy it. I tried to play it with my handheld Xbox controller, because they say to play it with a controller because that's how it's meant to be played. And so I tried to do that, but I actually find that I like playing it on like the keys better. I think that I would probably like playing it with a controller if I had bought it on my Switch, which I'm kicking myself that I didn't, because I would like to be playing this game on my Switch, to be honest, but it is what it is. But that's really all the extracurriculars that I've done since the last time we've checked in with each other. I haven't really been doing anything after work because I'm so tired this week. I feel like I'm learning a lot of things, but I feel pressure to do things that I don't know what I'm doing. And I also feel like my job is not giving me the tools to do the things that they're asking me to do, and also not giving me the time to like work through that with someone. I meet with my boss like 2 times a week for an hour, which is not enough time to like really dive into some of the things that need to be done. And so I'm really struggling with trying to figure out some things. And today she told me some stuff and it just like, oh, it stressed me out, honestly. Like, I'm breaking out into hives on my forehead because of it. I have like hives on my arm. I'm just like, it's stressing me out. It's giving me a headache. I just want to like veg. So that's also why I want to pick this one up. I'm just going to put in an audiobook, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I might play a game on my Switch. I'm not really sure, but I just want to like put on my headphones and chill. I'm so tired. So that's what I'm going to do. And I will come back and update you probably tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday, so that means I only work until 11:30, which is so exciting. And I don't know what I'm going to do with my afternoon. I also get my first real paycheck from my new job tomorrow, which is exciting as well. Excited to see what that actually is going to look like, so I can kind of get an idea of like what my paychecks will look like from a month to month situation or a paycheck to paycheck situation, because I do want to start working on like a budgeting plan for myself and my family, to do better with our finances. And so I'm excited to get that paycheck to see what that looks like and to pay some bills, because we got bills to pay and I've got credit card bills to pay and so on and so forth, forever and ever. Amen. That's all I have. Maybe we'll do something tomorrow. Maybe we won't. I do have a gift card that I still need to spend for Books A Million. So I'm contemplating going to Books A Million tomorrow potentially and taking myself to Trader Joe's, because I never got to do that in the last actual like vlog that I filmed. I talked about wanting to go to Trader Joe's and I wasn't able to do that. And I've been irritated that I haven't been able to do that this whole time. That was like 4 weeks ago, honestly. And I'm still irritated that I didn't get to do it, that I didn't have time. So I think that I'm probably going to try to do that tomorrow and just have a nice little like mini treat myself day. I also want to take my nails off because they're growing out so much. I don't know if y'all can tell, but like, they won't come off. I've been trying to get them off. I used to be able to get my nails off. They used to pop off easy. They used to come off so easy, and I can't get these toes off for shit. They're like stuck to my fingers. I've been trying to clip them off and bite them off and snap them off, and nothing's working. So I think I might have to end up drilling them off tomorrow, which is an outside task. It's an outside chore. But anyway, I have some ambitious things that I want to do tomorrow, potentially. But I could also just like not do any of that and take a bath. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I actually think while I'm reading this, I am going to make myself a glass of wine, because I would like a glass of wine while I read my book. It just sounds like a nice, relaxing thing to do right now. And yeah, my daughter's watching Winnie the Pooh, so she's having a silly little goofy laugh time. She's so funny. Anyway, I will come back and I'll talk to y'all more later at some point. Bye. Hello, friends. Hello. As you can probably tell, I'm not feeling well. I'm unwell. I'm sick. My daughter has been running fever for the last 2 days, and thusly I'm now sick because of her sickness. She's better now. She's fine. She's off at daycare. She's living, laughing, loving it. But I'm not. I took today off of work to just kind of rest. To be fair, I should be resting differently, but I'm not, and that's just what it is. But basically, I am coming in to update you guys on my reading thus far for the Radium Girls. I'm going to be completely honest with you and let you know that I've been reading this for way too long. And I'm about to start doing a thing. I'm about to start doing a thing in my videos, because I feel like the reason why I'm delayed a lot of the time in my videos is because I start reading a book that I'm just really not as interested in it as I thought I would be. And that's what's happening with this. Do I think that this book is great? Yes. I think that the story is wonderful. It's very interesting and it's very gripping. We're getting a lot of background on the
actual radium girls and like them as individual people across the US and that sort of thing. But it's just not holding my attention the way I need it to be holding my attention. And so because of that, I think I'm going to pause reading this and put it back. I think I am going to try and grab a different book again along the same lines. Let me get it. Hold on. So I think I am going to put The Radium Girls down. She's also really thick. The other thing is that I have the audiobook from my library that I've been using to tandem read it together. However, the audiobook is due back soon. It's like 14 hours that I still have left in this book, which is just I'm not gonna make it. It's just not what I want to read right now, and I feel like I'm forcing myself to read a thing I'm not that interested in at this moment. So we're gonna switch from reading that to instead reading A Slow Death, 83 Days of Radiation Sickness. This is a lot shorter, for one, but it's along the same lines, and I think that this might be the thing that I want to read. I keep thinking about it. I've seen one of my YouTube friends here. She recently got it, and I saw it in a picture that she took, and I was like, man, I really want to read that book. And I was like, I can. Hey, I can. I think I need to like help myself and step away from theme reading, honestly. I think theme reading is fun at some points, but I think for sometimes it's just like I feel like I'm forcing myself to read something I'm not that interested in. And anyway, y'all don't care about my rants and rambles about this, but we're going to move on to reading this instead. So we're going to put The Radium Girls down. We're going to move on to 83 Days of Radiation Sickness and see if this gives me the vibes that I'm wanting. I have also decided that Burnout, I'm not reading that right now either. I don't feel like it. I just don't. There's something about the way that it's written that I'm just not enjoying right at this moment. Bit of transparency also is I'm having a bad mental health moment. It happens from time to time. I was hoping that I wouldn't have these moments now that I'm on antidepressants, but it does not seem that my antidepressants are fully activating in the way that I need them to. So I'm so sorry. I sound terrible, and I know I'm like heavy breathing. Whatever. Whatever. But that's also not helping with my feelings around reading either. I'm just feeling very much like I just don't care about anything, and I don't have energy for anything. I don't have motivation for anything. Nothing is bringing me excitement or joy. I just feel nothing. That's like the best way I can describe it. I just feel empty. I feel emptied of emotion other than being sad. And I just can't seem to get myself through it right now. I do have a doctor's appointment in 2 days. So by the time you've seen this, I've already been to the doctor. But I'm hoping that I can talk with her and we can see about maybe switching my medicine. Maybe I need to up my dosage. I don't really know. But something has to change. I'm not feeling great about anything. So that being said, Burnout doesn't sound like a good thing to read right now. I don't want to. So we're going to read 83 Days of Radiation Sickness. We're going to get through this, and then we're going to move on to reading fun things for the rest of the month. I don't want to read any more nonfiction. But to wrap y'all up on what I have read thus far, The Radium Girls, like I said, I'm 15% of the way into this book, and at the point that I'm in, we're basically just learning about all of the girls and all of the different women who worked for the radium factories across the US and how that has like impacted these women. We're like starting to like see how the radium is impacting them. At the point that I'm at, one woman has already died from the radium, even though that's not, they don't know that that's what it was that killed her. It's very crazy to hear people talking about this in this book. Obviously, I know what I know now, right? Like I know what I know. And I'm listening to these women, previous past histories, talking about how they used to deal with radium and what they used to do. And like, they're talking about like to paint the radium onto like dials of watches, they would put the brush in their mouth. And it was called lip pointing or something like that, mouth pointing, something to that effect. And basically they would put the brush in their mouth to like make the bristle like super, super straight, so that they wouldn't have smudging or overlining when they were lining these numbers, because the numbers were super, 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 super tiny. And they would get in trouble or docked or whatever if their painting wasn't like precise. They would take all of their tray into a dark room and review it and like look at it together, and like, there's a lot of smudging happening or whatever it would be. So they're doing like lip pointing, lip painting, I don't remember what they call it, but they're basically putting radium straight into their mouth. And they're talking about how the radium's like all over the girls, and how at some point they would make the girls dust off in one factory. They would like dust them off from head to toe, but there was so much radium everywhere that it still like went home with them. They would take off their clothes at night, and their dresses would be like shining in the dark, or their shoes would be shining in the dark. And we've gone to a different factory in a different state, where I left off, and these women are doing the same thing, but their radium factory doesn't actually care as much about them wasting the radium. And so these women are just like brushing it into their teeth, into their eyelashes, and their hair. Like, they're purposefully putting it on their body so that they can go out and like be shiny when they're out on the town. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, especially because we see how one woman dies from the radium poisoning that she had, and it's gruesome. It's so gruesome. I can't imagine the pain and the hurt your body has to go through for being poisoned like that. And it just like slowly breaks you down and slowly takes you out, and like slowly, and I do mean slowly. Like, it was crazy hearing the story of how that one girl died. And now we're on to another woman who is also sick, and her doctor's investigating it. And it sounds like they're finally recognizing that the radium may be the thing that's causing these girls to get sick, because they didn't figure that for the first girl. But for this other girl, she's in a different state. Her doctor's like, I think it's the radium. I think this radium, something about what she's doing at her job is killing her. But they don't know necessarily that it's 100% radium, because also they're talking about how radium was like all the rage. It kind of reminds me of how they used to like use something green for like paint on like walls back in like Victorian times, and they found out that that was poison and they didn't realize it. Like all of these things that they were using, that they were like, oh, this is this cool new thing that we didn't know about. And then over time they realized like, oh shit, this thing's killing people. It's like lead and all of that. Like we don't know what we don't know about it until it's too late most of the time. And so these girls are like, they're being told that radium's safe, and society's being told at large that radium's safe. They're drinking radium milk and radium pies, and they're getting radium pills to take their radium every day. And like, they do talk about in the beginning how like the radium is something that only like rich people can have. It's not a thing that's accessible to poorer people because it's so expensive in the beginning. But then to where the part that I'm in, they're like cutting the radium with other drugs, with other chemicals to like help it go a little further. But like, it's not lasting as long. So like true radium lasts for 1,000 years, whereas this cut radium that they have only lasts for like 7 years. So it's a lot less potent, if you will, but that doesn't mean that it's not still poisoning these people's bodies. And so yeah, I think it's gonna be this is a harrowing story. I do think that it's interesting, and I am enjoying learning about it, but I'm over reading it right now. So we're gonna move on. I'm gonna start reading this, and I will come back with an update at some point to let y'all know how it goes. I am nervous about this one because I do know this is rough. Like, I do know that it's really rough, but I want to read it. I do. There's a preface in this book for English edition by Hiroshi Awamoto. Do you realize what we've done? We've flung open the gates of the universe. We're pushing the people through into a new world that scares them half to death. It was that way when we first discovered electricity. People treated it like a toy, gave themselves electric shocks in parlor games, and suddenly the stuff flamed in their faces and killed them. And this atomic stuff is millions of times more powerful. Oh my, my, my. What would my father say? He'd say we've let loose hellfire. Maybe we have. Pearl Buck. Command the morning. That sounds very familiar to the radium situation that I was just talking about. We harness powers of things that we do not understand. We harness the powers of stuff that we don't know what the implications of it are, and we just go full fucking send on it. It's the same with this AI bullshit. Like, we've gone full send on this AI stuff, and we don't know what the impacts of it are going to be. It's the same thing we did with social media, right? Like, we went full send on social media. Everyone should have internet on their phones. And now we're learning the repercussions of that. I know way too much about random people on the internet. There was something that I was watching a video clip this morning on Instagram, and it was Shabazz. He was doing like a voiceover of someone else's video, this woman who makes hair barrettes out of women's husbands' jizz. Yep, that's what I said. She said this woman sent her her husband's load. Those are her words, not mine. And she turned it into a powder and she rolled it into the clay, and she was using her bare hands to roll this man's jizz clay into a octopus tentacle barrette. And now this woman, for unknown reasons, I have no idea why you would want your husband's jizz in a designed barrette for your hair, but she has it. She has it. And I just I just don't understand why you would want your husband's jizz in your hair. I know that's a crazy thing to say, because it is crazy to say, but like, why would you want that? Now, I'm not trying to kink shame nobody if that's what you're into, I guess, but like, no. It's gonna be a no from me. And then someone in the comments was like, imagine one day she gets tired of this barrette, or she dies and someone finds this barrette, and they like, someone else buys it secondhand in like in a Goodwill, and little does she know that she's walking around with some man's jizz in her hair. What are we doing? We've lost the plot. I've lost the plot also, because we're supposed to be talking about a book. I don't feel well, y'all. I really don't. Something else I did learn. So I haven't updated y'all in a while about my bedazzling, but I've been still working on bedazzling rest stop. But I did learn today, from Nat Cassidy himself, actually, that the edition of the book that I have is no longer in print. So I have a rare special-ish edition, if you will, of a book that's no longer in print, that I've just stuck gemstones and glue all over. And I'll never be able to have that copy of that book again. And part of me was like, oh my God, what did I do? But then another part of me was like, nah, but it looks cool. Like, it looks cool as fuck. So I commented about it too. And also Nat Cassidy, like, responded to my story post that I did. And I was like, no, don't like my story posts. The internet is too parasocial. It's crazy. Anyway, I think that's all I really have to update y'all on. I don't have a lot going on. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go get to reading. I'm gonna go lay my happy ass on the couch and read until I either pass out or decide to get up. I don't know, whichever one comes first. And I'll see y'all with an update in a little while. Oh, your girl is still struggling. It's not nearly as bad as it was yesterday, thankfully. My body is not aching. Literally, guys, like, all my joints were hurting. I don't know why. Everything was like, I feel like my face looks weird. Whatever. That's not why we're here. Anyway, I'm here to update you on my reading from yesterday, of 83 Days of Radiation Sickness. This book is a lot more technical than I was expecting. They do give you a lot of background into uranium enrichment, essentially, which is really interesting. And if you care about these types of things, I guess, in a political perspective, because right now, obviously, we are in a war with Iran, quote unquote, war. It don't make no sense. That's why I say it that way. Sorry. And it's over uranium enrichment, quote unquote. That's not why, but that's what Orange Face is saying. So anyway, learning about it in this book, I'm starting to understand some things a little bit better. I loved reading. They had like a introduction slash, is it preface or preface? I'm pretty sure it's preface. I don't know. I don't care to look it up right now. But in the introduction, they were talking about how the US was the first in this uranium stuff, and talking about the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and what we did to them, and then how nuclear power was continued to be worked on, and that only when other people started doing it did we actually go, oh no, maybe we should come to a consensus about this, because we would hate for someone to do that to us. This country is so pathetic and annoying. I'm so sorry. It's like we just bombed someone and didn't think about the consequences of our actions. Anyway, Japan was also a part of that race with the UK, the USSR, and France. And Japan was the only place at this time, and by 1990s, that had not had a criticality a criticality accident. And basically what that means is that something, when they are combining the elements that they're combining and the neurons and are firing and they're doing the thing that they do, they don't fuse at the right time, or they don't combine at the right time, and they end up getting set off. And unfortunately, that's what happened in this book. They're combining uranium and trying to extract some compound from it, and they cut corners. And they had already made a plan for cutting corners to make things a little more efficient, but to like still be safe. But then this person that we're following in this book, it was his first day at this portion of the plant, and it was his first day doing this activity, and his boss told him to just do whatever, and he listened to his boss, not knowing that his boss had further cut corners, and the corner that his boss cut created this criticality accident. And essentially him, his boss, and his coworker all get hit with a gamma beam and a something else, but they get like hit with it. It's not like the radiation poisoning like we saw with Chernobyl. Is not that type of radiation, but it is still like a very like pungent type of radiation, and basically it builds up and it shot out, and it shot into him. They all run out of the room after it happens, and he like goes and hides behind something and throws up and immediately passes out. And now we're like following him being at the hospital, but we're not just following him, we're also following the doctors taking care of him and the nurses taking care of him and all the specialists and everybody deciding what's going to happen and what they're going to do for him and how they're going to try and save his life. Unfortunately, it seems like a very misguided hope that they're going to be able to fix him, because he doesn't look quote unquote as bad off as he does, but it does seem like he is as bad off as we think. I've gotten to the 28% mark in my book. So right now I'm on day 7 of him having been hit with this radiation, and we're learning about his chromosomes and what has happened to them. This book is very enlightening because it is giving you like a really doctoral, and I don't know how else to explain that. Like it's giving you the science. But they specifically wrote it in a way where they wanted other people to be able to understand what they were talking about. So there's also a little section in here with pictures of things that it's going to like, it gives references to. So it'll go reference insert number 1, and then you can like look at the pictures. And like, so on this one, for example, this is them doing the inappropriate thing and like how they did that and like what was happening. Because they explain what they were doing and then they show you a picture, which they couldn't do clearly enough, he said, in the show that this book was written after. So yeah, it's very interesting, and it's very sad, obviously, because especially having been reading Radium Girls, I know what happened to those girls over the span of months, year, and what's happening to this man is going to all happen in less than a month. Or, well, I guess over like 3 months-ish. Whereas what happened to the Radium Girls took like a year to happen for some of them. So it's just very sad to me that like these things are happening. I'm curious to know, there is an afterword at the end of this book, and I am curious to know if we've gotten better with our science around radiation poisoning and radiation sickness and what we do for those who have been hit with it, if there's any kind of updates on that. I do think it's interesting also because they were talking about the like education of the doctors in the area and how they're in this area that's close to these nuclear plants, but they're not trained on how to handle anything with radiation. And literally the day before this happened, the main doctor was at a conference learning about radiation and radiation sickness and how they do treatments for radiation and things like that. He literally had just learned about it the day before. And he had gotten like pulled into this committee for radiation stuff that he didn't expect that he would get pulled into, but he did. And so like I don't know if it's thankful or not. I don't know yet what the payoff of that's going to be, unfortunately, for this man, but ultimately he did have like a training the day before this incident, which is crazy ironic timing. Like, just that's the most ridiculous timing I've ever heard. And like he's talking about preparing for an incident like this, like getting the hospital prepared and what that's going to take. And he's like talking about how it's going to take several months to prepare them to be able to handle something like this. And then the next day it happens. And yeah, it sounds very interesting. It is moving rather quickly, but also it's so detailed. Like, it's very weird. This book is 141 pages, not including the intro and the afterword. Or actually including the afterword, but not the intro. It's 141 pages. I think it's 160 pages altogether. And for something so short, it's packing such a punch already. I already am like just finding out about the chromosomes and like what's happening to this man's body already made me like, oh my God, like that's insane. Like, that's so terrifying and terrible. And yeah, I don't know. So anyway, I'm reading this, so I will continue reading this today. Hopefully, like I said, I made it 28%, so I have like 100 pages left to go. So hopefully after work today, I can focus on doing that, or also focus on that during my lunch today, and we'll just see how that goes. But otherwise, my daughter is doing better. I think she's cutting molars, and that's why she's had a fever, but I can't really tell, because she's also doing terrible two tantrums already, where I looked it up because I like research, okay? I don't know if anyone else likes to understand the science of things, but I do. And so I did some research on like what's going on with her body right now. And basically it was saying that like her ability to control or her ability to regulate her emotions isn't there, but her amygdala, I believe is what it was, is fully created, and it's just firing stuff at her constantly, which is where the temper tantrums are coming in. She's having issues regulating her emotions because she also doesn't have words. So she can't properly articulate what's going on with her, and she can't explain to me what's happening. And she's not going to be able to really do that until she's like 3, which is upsetting because that means I have a whole year fighting with her about her emotion and trying to keep myself in control, understanding that it's not something she can control, that she's not wanting to behave this way, but this is what her body's doing. Before this situation has been happening, what I had been doing with her when she would get upset is I would just remind her that she's okay and that everything's okay. I'm here for her, that she's okay, that sort of thing. Because at the time, that made the most sense. Now, I'm going to have to adjust and pivot the way that I express to her things and make sure that I'm validating what she's feeling. So if I could tell that she's mad or upset or sad or whatever it may be, just validating, like, I understand that you're upset. I'm sorry that you're feeling upset, but you're going to be okay. And like kind of just trying to get through to her that way, because I think that will help by me articulating the feeling that I believe she's having without actually knowing what she's having, and try and redirect her and hopefully let her calm down. If that doesn't work, then I'm just going to have to let her go through the emotion until she's back regular. This is a tough thing to deal with. I don't wish this stuff on my worst enemy, y'all. This is so difficult. That's my updates for today. Like I said, I still feel like crap. I sound terrible. I'm going to go make myself something to eat. I think I'm going to have some oatmeal for breakfast. It sounds really good. Make myself something. I need to just drink water, honestly, because I'm sick. I'm going to make myself some oatmeal and then come sit down and drink my water and eat my oatmeal and get to work for the day. I hope y'all are having a good day. I hope that everything's going well. And hopefully I'll see y'all in the morning with my final review of the book. But we'll see. I'm hoping that that's what's going to happen and that everything works out in my itinerary for the day. Gonna go. I'll see y'all later.
Hello guys. So, update time on my reading so far. I am on page 72. I did not get to finish this last night. Unfortunately, the way my daughter be going to sleep at night, I just don't have enough time. So, here we are. But I have read up to page 72. I am going to be finishing this tonight. It is currently 9:30. But my husband's away. He is watching the Odyssey with his friends and his family. So I'm home with the baby. And I was like, all right, well, this is a perfect night for me to just sit on my ass and read my book. There's no one here, no one to distract me, no one to talk to me, nothing. So we're going to be reading the rest of this book. So far, again, I'm on page 72, so I'm like halfway through already, but it is getting a little graphic in some spots, specifically talking about how the radiation's affecting his skin. I don't want to be too graphic and I don't want to like explain too much, especially if you do want to read this. I will say if you are not into like medical things, this is not the book for you. If you're not into understanding the science behind something, this book is not for you either. They do have a lot of explanation about radiation and sodium and uranium and blood compounds and DNA and cell transplants. Like there's a lot of like medical conversation around the like science of medicine. So if those are not things that you're like really all that interested in hearing about, this might not be the book for you. Just prefacing that for people. It's not just being like, and then on day 15, his toe fell off. Like that's not what happened, but like, you know what I mean? Like it's not just talking about what's happening to him. It's like deeply explaining what's happening to him. I do think that the intro on this book is very accurate when they say that the way that they're going to explain all of this to us in this book
really does match with helping you understand just how severe what he was going through is. I will say that at this point that I'm at, they have had to intubate him to be able to do certain things for him. And I am getting to a point where I'm like, at what point is this helping him? And at what point are we just like prolonging his suffering kind of thing? It is making me sad. It's making me very sad because I'm like, I understand that they're trying to help him because they want to stop all the things and they want to be able to save him. And I think that that's the most beautiful thing. I'm beyond grateful that these people are willing to do all of these things to save this man and that they're willing to go as far as they can to save him. But I also recognize the amount of pain that he's in and the amount of times where he's said no and where he said stop and where he said leave me alone, this hurts, it's too much, it's too far, you're doing too much to me. And I'm just like, that's where I get to that point where I'm like, how much is too much? How far is too far? When is enough enough? And like that's a huge medical gray area because the oath that doctors take is not the same oath that we as people might think they should be doing, or the ethics that we agree with, and everybody doesn't agree with, humane euthanasia, whatever that may mean and whatever that may entail. And so I do find it very fascinating getting to like see this and hear about what happened. I am at a point where I'm like, no, I would have been like, y'all can just go ahead and let me die. Y'all can just go ahead and let me, if you have to do that, you can go ahead and let me die. It's fine. I'm good with that. And like I say that, I'm not in his position and I'm not fighting for my life in his position. But right now, being in my right mind, hearing what's happening to him and how his body is failing him left and right and what they're having to do to try to help his body stop failing him, y'all need to do, it's doing it by itself. Just let it happen. Like it's almost over. Like, and they did talk about in a part of this book too, where they're like, no one has ever lived this long. At the point of this incident, no one had ever lived as long as he had from the kind of criticality in accident that he had been through. That word is tripping me up every time. No one had survived as long as he had at this point. Most people, I think they said the like longest someone had survived was like, I don't remember if it was 9 days or 19 days. Oh, the longest survival case of a criticality accident victim irradiated throughout the body had been 9 days. At this point, Uchi is his name. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that wrong. If I am, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to say Uchi because I don't know how else. I need to look it up. Ouchi, Uchi. That's what I think. I don't know. Anyway, at this point, he is still alive 29 days after his incident. So he's made it 20 days further than any other person has ever made it after one of these types of accidents, which I think is crazy. And I would love to understand. And I don't know if we're going to learn why that is or how that's possible. I don't know if it's just a part of him because he did, like, they talk about a lot of time in this book, how kind he is and how nice he is and how sweet he is and how loving he is and how caring he is and how strong he is and how he like physically appears like he's fine for a while, other than his like hand is swollen. Otherwise, he's appearing outwardly like everything's okay-ish. He's talking. He's able to do things. He's able to move around a little bit. Like he's able to do stuff that he shouldn't be able to do. Obviously, that's not for very long. I think that was like a week, maybe not even a full week. But all that to say, like, I wonder if they're going to talk about that. I don't know if that's going to come up or not. But yeah, it is sad. Again, like some of the explanations of like how his body is shutting down and what's happening to his body appearance wise is just like, that's one of the B-roll clips y'all saw me was like, because it wasn't so graphic to me to the point where I was like, oh my God, but like it is graphic to me in the sense that like thinking about that happening to me, I'm like, what do you do? Like, how do you, anyway, this book's crazy. I don't I feel for this man so deeply. And not even just him, but his family. His family's also there. His wife, his kid, his parents, his sister. His sister ends up being able to be a match for him to have a stem cell transfusion, which is amazing. They find her, they have her go into like a Red Cross near her to test her, and she comes back as a match. And so she's willing to give him whatever he needs and take whatever he needs. But she's like, they talk about how like she's so small. And so they have to like basically get her body to create more of a certain cell so that they can take it from her, because if they just take from her because of how small she is, like she's like 90 pounds or something like that, it could hurt her in the long run to do that. So like, you know, we don't want to hurt her in trying to help him. Like we don't need two people here having issues. So they do that. And that does end up, like, it seems like it's working thus far in the book, that's helping. We're learning a lot about the chromosomes and how the chromosomes work and lymphocytes. Like, I'm telling you, like, it's very science. But I do think that they talk about it in enough of a way that, like, if you took chemistry, biology in high school, you'll understand what they're talking about. If you did it in college, you'll definitely understand what they're talking about. But if you did it in high school, because that's all I have, that's the only background I have is high school science. And I definitely can understand what they're talking about to a point. I think it also helps too. I do have a background being a veterinary technician, so I used to have to read blood samples for dogs and cats. And the panel is similar to what we would look at for ourselves. So some of this stuff, anyway, enjoying this so far. Like I said, we're going to be finishing it. I have a pizza over here for myself, and I have a nice fat glass of wine here. I made it through the week, so I deserve this big ass glass of wine. My favorite wine is the Stella Rosa brand. I just really, really, really like the Stella Rosa brand. I've been getting the peach, golden peach honey, I think is the flavor of this one. I really like that one. But honestly, any of theirs, I really like their red wines too. If you aren't a red wine drinker, the Stella Rosa reds are really good. They're not bitter like normal reds are. They're very sweet. They're almost like a dessert red, if you will. Like almost like if you think about a Moscato and a red wine being combined. Like that's how I feel about their reds. I really like them. That was my entryway into red wine. And then I went to Napa Valley for one of my best friend's bridal showers. And obviously that's wine country. So I had a lot of different types of wine. And I did acquire a taste for like regular red wine. Very odd. I also acquired a taste for Sauvignon Blanc. And that's one of my favorite white wines now. Really, really yummy. Anyway, outside of those things, other updates. Big update that I'm excited about is that I bought some NFC tokens on Amazon so that I could make myself my own brick. I don't want to pay $90 for a brick. I don't want to do that. If you don't know what a brick is, it's a very popular thing right now on social media. Lots of ads for them. This is not an ad, but it's a RFID reader block that you can stick anywhere, but you tap your phone on it, you set up parameters with it, and it bricks your phone, which basically makes it a regular phone. You can call, you can text, but that's like about all that you can do. It's not anything fancy. Blocks all of these certain apps, blah, 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 blah. So I wanted to do that idea. I would love to do that concept, but I don't want to pay $90 for this device, not knowing if I'm actually going to use it or if it's actually going to work for me. So what I did is I found an app called Focus. It's Focus, I believe, but it's called Focus. Can you focus on my focus? And all you need to do with this app is buy NFC cards from Amazon, and then you can set up your own bricks. So I've set up one for work and I've set up one for bedtime. The bedtime one is set to automatically turn on Monday. Well, I need to set it from Sunday through Thursday, because I want to do that for work purposes and sleeping better. But all I have to do is like scan this chip
and it blocks all of the specific apps that I asked it to block. But I do like it so far. I bricked my phone last night to go to bed, and I went to sleep relatively fast because I couldn't do the things that I normally do on my phone. I have a bad time of playing games on my phone when I need to be doing other things, or jumping around on social media when I need to be going to sleep. And so breaking it out, for bedtime, I do have allotments for like reading, so I can listen to audiobooks when it's locked, or I could read on my phone if I wanted to. I don't do that. I do have a Kindle, so if I was going to read an ebook, I would just use my Kindle. But that's pretty much the only things that are unblocked outside of my phone calls and my messages, because I want people to be able to text me and stuff while I'm sleeping still. But I really like it. You can set it with timers, or you can just scan it, and then when you scan it again, it'll unblock it. But I made one for bedtime, and then I made one for work, because I also find myself getting very distracted when I'm at work. And so I've set certain things where I've blocked certain things on here so that I don't get notifications of those things when I'm working. And I actually hid the little tag behind a piece of my art on my wall so you can't see it, but I know it's there, so I can scan my phone when I walk in my office, and then I can scan it when I walk out, so that I can like get on and off of my phone whenever I'm not working. And I think that will be more helpful for me, so that I also am not overworking, because I'm finding that sometimes I get distracted during work hours, and so then I end up working more to make up for that time that I was overly distracted, and I don't want to have to do that. I really don't. So yeah, thought that was really cool, really excited about it. I'll keep y'all updated as I use it more, on how I'm liking it and how it's working for me. Other than that though, I think that's it. Mental health update. I did see my doctor today. I'm being switched medications. We're switching from Wellbutrin to Lexapro. Hopefully that transition goes smoothly, but she thinks it'll be a better fit for me and what I'm dealing with and what's going on with me. So I'm hopeful that like this will work and this will help. I'm tired of struggling, y'all. Honestly, I'm tired of being sad. I'm tired of being depressed. I'm tired of not having motivation or excitement for life. I don't want to be this way. I don't like being this way. It sucks, honestly. And I hate complaining about it. And like it's not like it's a bad thing to complain about. I just hate that I'm always complaining about it, because I would like to be better. In whatever way that is, even if it's just a little bit better, I would like to be better. I would like to stop being sad all the time. So we'll see if that works. We'll see if that helps. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all of my updates for now that I can think of. So I'm gonna start eating my pizza and finish reading my book, because I've been talking for 20 minutes, I think. I'm gonna go, because editing this vlog's gonna be a nightmare. But I will see y'all once I've finished 83 days. Okay guys, we made it to the end of the video. I have officially finished 83 days of radiation sickness. Y'all, this was a lot. This was a lot. I know in my last update I was talking about how I was grappling with the idea of like, you know, he's in a lot of pain and we're doing all of this, and like, is it really worth it? Like, at what point is enough enough? And I do want to say that they did start grappling with that conversation like shortly after my clip. So ultimately, the main person that we're following, Uche, he does end up dying. His cohort that was working with him, we learn about too, and like what happened with him and everything he went through. He also ended up dying. Obviously, we know that he died because the book is called A Slow Death. But I did like that we got that concept of them grappling with the morality of what they were doing and the ethics of what they were doing. And it does seem though that a lot of the people in the moment, they like, obviously looking back at what was happening, they're talking about in the moment, like they didn't want to say anything because they didn't want to bring down the morale of everybody else. And they knew if they started questioning things, everybody would start questioning things. And like, even the head doctor was like, you know, I didn't want to say anything because blah, blah, blah. And like, they do get to a point where they're like, you know, was the point of the treatment to try to fix him, or at what point did we stop treating him to try to fix him, and at what point were we just treating him
because that's what we thought we were supposed to do or what we needed to do or whatever the case may be. Like I said, I do think they grappled with that, and I do like that they included that in the story, because I like listening to the rest of that once things started getting to a point where I was like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? I do think I think that was an important conversation. I do think that that's an important piece to the story. And I think that's an important piece of like telling the story as well, is like, why are we doing what we're doing? And to what point should we be doing what we're doing, right? And, you know, we even get some spots in the end where the doctors and nurses are talking about, you know, grappling with what happened and what they did and what they were involved in and their involvement in it, and how they feel after the fact, and how they have to like kind of think of things in a specific way to be able to cope with it and to like feel whatever they're feeling. And I don't know, man, this was a rough one. This was really, really rough to read. It's a really hard read just from the emotional weight of it. I don't think that like, I don't know, there's a lot of like things to talk about too around nuclear energy and nuclear power plants and what we're doing and the safety and efficacy of what we're doing and all of that with this. And it was satisfactory to a point as well, because we do get justice for Uche and his counterpart for what happened to them. Their boss was also a part of this, but he ends up living through this. He was there, but he like was far enough away, I guess, that he didn't get hit the way that Uche and his counterpart did. This sucks. I'm sorry that you have to be so close, but my mic died. Anyway, I think that they did a great job writing this book. I do think that the story that they're telling, I think they told the story in a really good way. I really appreciate this whole book for what they did and what they said and how it was written, and giving life to Uche and what he went through and how everything just impacted him and his family and everyone around them, and just the nursing staff and the doctors and what they were going through too, and having to do this to him. And when they like, I don't know, man, this was a rough one. This was a rough read for sure, but I am glad that I read it. It does make me want to read more nonfiction medical type books. I think that this was written really well. Like I said before, like ways to grasp this story and to really understand it. Even if you don't have all of that background, they do a really, really, really good job explaining things, in my opinion, in a way that like a lay person can understand. I think there is a level at a certain point where some of the stuff is kind of like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. But thank you for explaining it to me. I still don't really know what it means, but I'm like, I'm grasping at pieces. I think that it's good. It's good that they still explain it, even if it's not like super understandable. Like they talk about all the medications they're giving him and what the medications are for and how they work, and the machines he's on and what they do, and the tests they're doing and how they work and what they do and what they're looking at. And there's so much medical conversation in this. So anyway, that's the end of my reading nonfiction vlog. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you liked it. If you would like me to read more nonfiction on the channel, definitely let me know. I had a great time doing this. I obviously have 2 nonfictions that I still didn't finish, but that I did start. So maybe at some point I'll do a like finish our unhaul nonfiction edition. But until then, thank you for being here. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a like. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe if you're interested. I would love to have you here. I am enjoying doing this so much. It's such a like great outlet for me to like, one, push me to read my books that I own because I love reading, but also to like get me to come out of my bubble a little bit and out of my shell a little bit. And it helps me a lot with my loneliness and my depression feelings and all of the things. So I appreciate you all for being here, and I appreciate everything that y'all have done, said, and been a part of during this process. But yeah, thank you all so much, and I will see you in another video soon. Bye.